Welcome back, wannabes and creators, to another episode of The Complete Creative, the podcast that helps you build and sustain a better creative business. And today on the show, we have Sandra and Tara from Kicking the Creatives, an awesome website that helps you create a creative writing habit. And they are going to talk to us about what it takes to have a good collaboration, how to build a habit, how to use challenges to build a writing habit, how to create a community, and a whole lot more. I'm super excited to get on with that show. Before we do, I want to tell you that we have a free ebook all about how to make the best work of your life and share it with the world. And you can get it right now by heading on over to thecompletecreative.com/best work. Again, that's thecompletecreative.com/best work. Now that that's out of the way, let's get on with the show. Take it away, ladies. Tell us what you're passionate about these days.
Well, I think we're very passionate about getting people creating and building a creative habit. And through doing challenges, that is the key way we want people to do it, because we realise the benefit through doing those ourselves, how having that focused attention on something really got you doing the creative act, whether that's art, writing, or whatever it is.
How about you, Sandra?
Yeah, and it's basically, encouraging people, obviously, as well as continuing to practice art myself. It's encouraging people to get past that initial fear, the part where you're not very good, because everybody, when they start, is not very good. And there are people that just pick up the pencil and start again. And there's people that leave the pencil well alone and don't try again. And I think what we like to do is try and just make people understand that actually, every single bad drawing you do is a stepping stone to a good one, and not to let that stop you from getting better.
I love it. So you guys have two very different backgrounds, but you guys came together to do this. So how I know you is from Kicking the Creatives, which is your website and brand, and your podcast, which I've been on as well. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about each of your backstories and then sort of how Kicking the Creative started.
Okay, so if I kick off, I basically always wanted to do something to do with art. So from when I was a little kid, I said I wanted to be a famous artist. Well, that didn't quite happen, but I did go to art school. Did sort of the general art and design, we did a bit of taster of everything. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And someone just said, well, maybe graphic design is the path from you. And stupidly, without really researching anymore, I thought, yeah, I'll do that. So I went the path of learning about graphic design, got into the business. It probably wasn't a great fit, but I've actually been doing that for 25 plus years. But through doing that, I really lost the initial love that I had for drawing and creating by hand, because everything was digital. So eventually I started a podcast, and that was really, I think, to try and make connections with other creative people and to get that sort of creative passion back. And through doing that, I heard Sandra on another podcast. So I asked her if she wanted to come on mine, and she did, and I interviewed her, and then we were chatting for ages afterwards. And I sort of said to her, why don't you have your own podcast? Because she loves talking. And she said, oh, no, I could never do that, but I'd be up for doing a joint episode. So that's basically how we connected. And after doing a few joint episodes, we started Kicking the Creatives. And the idea, I just told you before, was to encourage other people, because I knew, and I think Sandra knew, what the benefits were, because it got me drawing. We actually did, before we started our podcast, we did this crazy challenge, just the two of us. And it was to see if alcohol would make you more creative. So we tried different exercises with and without having 3 units of alcohol. And that was the first time I'd really picked up a pencil just to draw purely for the love of drawing. And I drew a bottle, and it felt really alien, because I'd only done these quick scribbles and stuff for the graphic design. But I really enjoyed it. And that got me creating, drawing by hand again, even though it felt so weird at first.
Awesome.
And for me, I started, I was drawing as a kid, as usual, but I was one of the kids that stopped drawing. That some kids just carry on and, they just go for it, and other kids just get to a point where they look at someone else's work and think, oh, actually I'm not as good as them, so obviously I'm not meant to be drawing, so you don't bother. And my life just took me into other directions, and I got married and had children. And it wasn't until my kids were probably about 4 or 5, something like that, and I started drawing with them, and I decided I'd paint this mural on my daughter's wall. And it was just really strange, because when I was painting, I hadn't done it for so long, and I just was so absorbed. It was just fantastic, just having this paint and being able to create something, even though I was copying from a book. I was doing The Little Mermaid, and her book that I was copying from was very much a two-dimensional drawings, and I decided I wanted to make them much, much more realistic and go for the 3D effect and do a whole bedroom scene. And I just totally got lost in the process, and I loved it. And I have to say, I stood back and I remember thinking, wow, I'm quite good at this. And that kind of gave me the bug. But of course, I didn't really do much about that. I was probably, must have been early 30s before I think I was just looking through a friend's sketchbook. She sort of was drawing, she used to draw, and we went away for a weekend, and she carried this sketchbook around with her everywhere. And I said, can I have a look at your sketchbook? And she said, oh yeah, have a look. And I said to her, if I could do this, there is absolutely no way that you'd be able to stop me drawing in it every single day. But she did not pick it up once. She just wouldn't draw in it. And I was just gobsmacked. I thought, if I had that kind of talent, anyway, I just got the bug. It really made me want to do it. And I decided that I would enroll in an art school, which was a big mistake for me, because art school isn't for everybody. But because for me, I wasn't ever going to be happy with just being quite good at something. I really wanted to be the best possible version of an artist that I could be. And I believed somehow that, to be an artist, you had to have a piece of paper to kind of prove that, which obviously is nonsense. But that's how I thought at the time. So I enrolled in an art school, and soon realised that actually these days they don't really teach you technique. They teach you more about, delving into imagination and being crazy and launching yourself, naked against a canvas with paint all over your body, or making sculptures out of junk. They don't actually sit you down and say, right, let's learn how the masters used to paint. So I was really disappointed. So I left. I think I left after about, it was probably about a year into the course, and decided that I was going to teach myself those techniques. And so I shut myself away, and I started collecting every bit of information I could possibly collect on those techniques. And it took me to the kind of painting I do today, which is realism painting, which is completely different to what Tara does, because Tara is much more of a imaginative, abstract style artist. So the two of us together, you would never think that we would work, but we so do, because I bring out something in her that is good for her, but she also brings out in me something that's good for me, because I've always wanted to with my sketching, be more loose and experimental, whereas I was sketching so carefully in my sketchbook. Now I don't do that. And Tara was the opposite. She was going crazy in her sketchbook and kind of wanted to tighten up a little bit. So basically we met, as Tara said, through that podcast, and she couldn't get me off the phone, and we've been friends ever since. And that was, how long ago, Tara, was that? Was it
2.5, 3 years ago?
Yeah. We've met lots of times and gone out doing lots of sketching trips together. And it's been a real fun journey together. As I say, I think we both just bring something out in each other that we wouldn't perhaps have otherwise.
That's great. So I would love for you guys to talk a little bit about how this collaboration and this partnership kind of works, and what you've learned about being a partner, with somebody else in a venture, because art is, especially like the kind of fine art, is often done like by yourself in a not in a bubble or in a vacuum, but like without a lot of collaboration. And I would love for you to find out. I know probably Tara, because you do graphic design, you deal with a lot more collaboration. But I'd love for you to learn like what you guys learned together about like how to make an effective collaboration work.
Yeah, I think like when we first started, I mean, for years, I really wanted to work with somebody else on a project, but I could never find a person. I even dabbled in some projects with people, but it never worked because you'd always be missing something on one side. So you might do the bit you'd said, and then the other person wouldn't do the bit they said, or they couldn't do the bit that you couldn't do. So what you really need to do is find those two people that have got differing skills. And I think that's where we came together quite well, because Sandra probably likes the writing side of things more. So when we say first set up our website, Sandra was writing a lot of the challenges and I was doing the design work, putting it all together. I was more the tech kind of side. And it's having that person that has the missing thing that you haven't got, I think really helps. But you've also got a lot of similarities that cross over. And one thing I found as well is you really need that person where you know that if you say to them, oh, let's do this, and they say they're going to do something, you know they're actually going to do it, because so often that doesn't happen. I'm sure you found that, Russell, before, that you work with someone and you don't get the thing, or it's not done on time, or when they say it is. And I think with me and Sandra, it just kind of works like that, because I knew if she said she was going to do something, she'd do it. And I hope that she thinks the same about me.
Yeah, definitely. It's a trust thing as well, isn't it? And I think what's great is that we, I suppose, we know each other well enough to be able to say, actually, no, I don't necessarily agree that that's going to work. And then the other person might say, oh, okay, why? And then, they'll see your point of view, or they won't. But you're not afraid to say, I don't think that's the best way. And Tara said that to me in the past quite a few times. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool, that's fine. And likewise. And I think it's important to listen to each other. And I think we do that very well. I like to think so anyway.
I do roll my eyes at you quite a lot, don't I?
Oh, she always rolls her eyes at me. She does that a lot. But we have fun. That's the main thing. It's mainly fun.
Yeah, I think keeping it lighthearted. I mean, I'm sure we pay each other off, sometimes because I know we do. But it's that having that good sense of humour. And if we do annoy each other, it's like it's over pretty quick. And
I must be oblivious, because I never know what she's on about when she says anything like this. I'm like, really? But I think I'm just a generally oblivious person, to be honest.
Well, I really I think that that's a good framework for collaboration, because usually most people, or at least for myself, when I looked for collaborators in the past, when I first started my businesses, like I found people who were very much like me and had the same skill set as I had, and it did not help augment the things that I could do well. I mean, I had other issues that people wouldn't do the work, and like you were talking about, and you would be pulling your hair out because you'd be doing everything, and like you're like, why am I giving you 50% of this thing if you're not doing anything? But I think that part of it is trust, and part of it is finding those people who have complementary but also disparate skill sets, and fill in the things that you are lacking, whether you are hiring somebody to do work or partnering. I think that you kind of have to you have to have would you say that you would have to have like a pretty good understanding of yourself too? Because I found that the more I understood my strengths and weaknesses, the better partnerships I was able to find.
Oh yeah, totally. Because I know that I am really bad at being tactful, and it's not deliberate. But especially when you type, it's not so much in person, but when I type stuff, I think it comes across as quite blunt. And so I always have to put it through Sandra to check it. So me knowing that means we get better emails going out because it's vetted first.
And likewise, the other way round, what happens is sometimes I'll reply to something, and as Tara said, I am a talker, I'm a waffler, and what's quite funny is I actually have to do the opposite. I have to say to Tara, okay, is this okay? And she'll say, okay, you need to cut out about 5 paragraphs of waffle and get to the point. So it's quite funny. So between the two of us, the writing gets better. I waffle less and she speaks more.
Yeah, and it gets more tactful as well.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful.
But like you
yeah.
say, that's more a context thing. That's more with writing, isn't it? Sometimes it's difficult to write as you would talk, whereas I tend to do that more.
Yeah, it's knowing the tone, isn't it? That you're meaning something in.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I find myself like I often think of how much I would get done if I had a partner in my company instead of just hiring freelancers. But then I realized that like I tried 4 times to have partners and 4 times it didn't work. So like maybe I just should be okay with running the company that I had by myself. But I find that like when things are going well or things are going badly, I just look around and I'm like, literally no one understands what I'm going through. Like not one
Yeah.
person that like understands the thing, like the exact thing. Like even my wife who's with me now that we're in quarantine, like all day, every day, like I can't turn to her and be like, this specific thing happened and this is what it means. Because while she can empathize and sympathize, she is not actually going through it with me every day.
Yeah.
Totally get that. I mean, we've had a few things happen and it's like, oh, what on earth do we do about this? And at least you haven't got to just sit there and work out how to do it yourself. You've got someone else as a sounding board. And I don't know, and as well, when you get a great thing happen, you can both jump on a call and like kind of celebrate it as well. It's just having that person there that understands it all.
I think as well, it's when you're actually looking for a partner in something, maybe I just think neither of us were really looking for a collaboration at that point, were we? It just kind of happened and it was more of a natural process. It wasn't I'm going to interview Sandra on my podcast because I'm looking for a collaboration. And then we talked and then it sort of was built like one of those, pop groups that are built by another, by someone else. It was very much of a natural formation and it kind of just seemed to happen. And it wasn't really that we were kind of looking for it at the time. I think it's like when you look for love. Do you think when you're trying, you don't find it? And when you don't, it's sort of there. I wonder if it's...
I don't like you that much. But yeah.
No, but, that kind of... I'm trying... the analogy, you know what I mean? I think sometimes the best things happen naturally, maybe.
Well, I think that the thing when it's happening naturally is it's going slow. So for me now, I have like boundaries that I put up, and so I was working on a project recently, and we had all agreed on homework, like to do this thing before our next meeting, and there were 4 of us, 5 of us, something like that, and only 2 of us did the thing, and it allowed me to be like, well, I know that if you're not going to do this very simple thing, you are not going to do a more complex thing. And like, whether that is because like just our communication styles are different or like you didn't care as much or like, I don't know. But the end result was that like this thing didn't get done. And I even gave people like an additional week to like do it just to see if they would, if it would get done. And so by being able to go slow and not like diving in head first, you sort of get to see if somebody is really like going to be worth the investment in time or resources. And I think people, much like love, when they dive in too quickly, they kind of don't understand the whole process of like that is how much it's going to take of your life. Like I remember I at one point in my relationship with my wife asked her to move in with me. Like I need a place to live. You need a place to live. I was definitely not thinking about it, and like it ended up working out. But I certainly didn't put the gravitas on what living together with somebody would mean, and like what it implied for the future. And yeah, I think one of the things about letting things happen naturally over time, or like having someone on a podcast and then doing a couple of guest pieces on a podcast and then like moving to the next level and the next level and the next level, lets you both see what the commitment level is. And like, if if you both are on the same level, you then can take the next step.
Oh, totally. I remember when we decided we were going to set up this website, the Kicking the Craves website, and we'd both agreed we were going to do this. So I sat and I was trying to do some designs, and Sandra said she would write some of the challenges, start writing the challenges. So I'd done it, and I was, you don't know, do you? Well, I kind of knew she would do it, but you've always got that thing, will this all happen? But she'd written so much stuff while I was doing the design, and it's like, blimey, so then that someone's heart is in it as much as yours, because they've done as much or more than you've done in that sort of same time.
But then again, it's like we were saying earlier, bringing something to the table that isn't there, the other one doesn't have. And I think the one problem sometimes we do have is that we so wish we lived closer, because although we're obviously both in England, we are, to meet in the middle, it would take an hour and a half. So we're about 3 hours away from each other. But in an ideal world, what we'd have is we'd live close by and then think, right, let's get together and really crack on with all these things in a room together on computers and get lots done in a day. And we can't do that. So there are sort of things when you know that things are happening in the background, but you don't. Sometimes you're doing something and you think, oh, I hope they realise I'm spending all this time doing this thing, because it's invisible. Some of the work you do is pretty invisible. And sometimes on social media things will pop up and it's Tara posted this and Tara posted this, but Tara does the graphics. So, and sometimes I feel like, oh my gosh, she's doing all this stuff. But in the meantime, I'm writing the newsletter. So there's stuff we both do. Just be lovely if we could do more together in person than we do. I think that would be very helpful, wouldn't it, Tara, if we could do that? It'd be bright.
Yeah, I think one of the great things about the internet is that you can actually find people that you fit with almost, but it does have that disadvantage, like you say, that we can't actually sit in a room together like we would like to quite often, because it would make some things, especially like shooting videos and stuff like that, we've done, where we will script it and then we'll each shoot a bit, but it would be so much easier if we were just sitting in the same room. Yeah.
Do you guys ever do like a Zoom chat just all day and do that, like that sort of thing?
No.
No, because I think if we did that, the trouble is with Tara and I, if we go on a video chat, we end up talking about our dogs and everything else going on in life, and we almost the business side of it is like, oh, we're supposed to be talking about this, so we're quite distracted like that.
We do need to do that, and that is we need to knuckle down, and we were going to start doing like a regular meeting. We need to arrange that to make sure we do it.
Yeah, I think it's always good. I think having a schedule is really good. We do have things like deadlines where, like, okay, we really want to get this done by then, but sometimes I'm quite happy, because when we first started this, Tara, you were very much like, right, we want to do this. I'm like, don't worry, it'll happen. We'll get to that stage. We'll get to that stage, and sure enough, we have reached our goals, haven't we? But it's in a very steady fashion, and it's quite good, because as Tara's very, very much like motivated to get everything done right now, but I want to get it done, but I also want to make it sure it's right first. Do you know what I mean? So that's another way where we work very well together, because she's got that drive to get it done quickly, whereas I've got that perfection side of me that thinks, no, but I want it to be good. Do you know what I mean?
Right. So I think that is a sort of natural segue about to start talking about challenges. And why do you think challenges are so important to a creative to get stuff done?
I just think it's that focused time. I know I've done things like I've done challenges before. Like, I really wanted to create a set of cartoons that I was going to pitch to try and get licensed. And actually setting yourself a challenge for a period of time means it actually gets done. And it sounds crazy because, what's to stop you just saying, oh, I'm going to draw a cartoon every day? But I think unless sometimes you need to state it publicly, I'm going to do this, or you need to take part in an existing challenge that's out there. So you've got that motivation from other people, cheering you on almost, that I think really helps get things done. And I know Sandra, when she was having a block with your art, you did a challenge then, didn't you?
Yeah, it's the accountability, I think, that works so well. I mean, I think what you're talking about is way before we met,
Yeah.
wasn't it? And I was just had this slump. I'd been painting and painting, and then all of a sudden I just felt completely blocked. It was the strangest thing. And I thought that was it. I was never ever going to want to paint again, which is funny, really, because I've been through blocks since, and I'm experienced enough now to know that it'll pass, and it's just your brain's way of recharging, really, just having a break. But yeah, I happened to be emailing a friend of mine from who lived in Boston. And it just so happened, she emailed me back and said, I'm going through exactly the same thing. I just have not painted for months because I'm just in such a bad place at the moment. So I can't remember who said what, but basically one of us came up with the idea, why don't we every month, each one of us will pick 5 random words, and then the other one will have to choose one of those random words, and in that month we will both have to paint something related to that word. So, and we decided we'd start a blog, which we did. It was a private blog, and do you know what? It just changed everything. It changed absolutely everything because we were accountable to each other. I'd never been so productive. I mean, we were both painting like you wouldn't believe, and we were only doing little 8x8 paintings, but I was painting sort of 4 paintings a month, and I'd not done that before, and she was doing the same, and it was great. We only had it going for a year because by then we were just completely through that block, but it was just having somebody there, egging you on, saying, okay, right, this is the word. I know exactly what I'm going to paint. And then you're like, oh, I wonder what that is. And then you'll do it. And then you're excited to know what the other person's painted. And yeah, so I think challenges are great for the accountability factor. And certainly within our group in the Kick in the Creatives, you get people, and it makes us chuckle sometimes because they'll say, oh no, I'm so sorry, I've missed a couple of days. And it's funny because obviously they feel that everyone's noticed that they haven't posted, and of course nobody's noticed, but it's good to feel that way because it makes you you carry on. I mean, they'll perhaps post 3 drawings the next day saying, no, I'm just catching up, and I think that's why it works, because it's that feeling that people are waiting to see what you've done.
I think also it's very much about focus, because I'm one of these shiny objects people. So, I might start drawing a cartoon one day, and then another day, this was more what I was like, and then I might draw a face another. And if you set yourself a challenge, generally it's quite narrow. So it might be, I'm going to draw a face every day, I'm going to write a blog post every day. So that is the one task you have to do. And it really improves that element because you are focusing on that one thing as well, I think.
Yeah, you see this with so the thing that I see a lot is, so there's NaNoWriMo for writers. This is
Yeah.
National Writers Month in November. There's Inktober / Drawloween / there's a whole bunch of them that like happen in October that all are sort of like Halloween related.
Yeah.
But you guys seem to be doing like a different one every month. And like what is it about, like, how do you keep it fresh every month? Because I know people that like get really excited for like Drawloween or Inktober, but like that is like their one time a year. And so I would expect that like if people are that focused for that 1 month, like they need some downtime to like recharge. So how do you keep that battery going to like do a challenge every single month, sort of on a continuous basis?
Well, we're all about keeping up like a creative habit. So a lot of our challenge, we actually have 4 challenges a month, and that's obviously not for people to do all 4 at once, but they have 4 to choose from. So they have one which is called the Quick Kicks Challenge, which is basically designed for people that don't have a lot of time but really want to make sure they've drawn something or done something creative that day. And that could be something from a 5-minute drawing or a 5-minute sketch a day, could be a left-handed drawing because or drawing upside down, and all these exercises that are proven to actually improve your skills. And so it could just be something as simple as that. On the other end of the scale, we've got the Kick Time Challenge, and that is just where we supply one random word at the beginning of the month, and they have the whole month to come up with something to do a much bigger project around that word. And that might be a sculpture or a play or a piece of music or whatever. And then we've got the ones in between. So, for instance, we've got a Kit Crafty Challenge, which is more to do with textiles and things like that. And we've also got a writing challenge. We've got the February Fables, which is writing the first draft of a children's book in February. And we've got things like the Portrait Challenge, which is doing a portrait a day. But I think the secret is we have a lot of choice going on. And so there's something for everybody. And then we've also got the Kick 365, which is basically a much bigger undertaking. It's like the ultimate challenge where you do something every day for 365 days. And what we found is there's a few people that are doing that actually are doing it through the challenges. So they're doing every single challenge, well, not every challenge, they're doing one challenge a month, every month for a year. And we've had a few people that have actually done that and been very successful and just carried on. So it's about choice, I think. Do you think, Tara?
Yeah, and I also think everybody doesn't do a challenge every month. People do dip in and out.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you might get someone who will do a challenge every day for a month, but then they might dip out and just do a few of their own thing. But they might post those just on our Wednesday little post that we do. So yeah, I don't think necessarily everybody does it all the time, but I think it's knowing that you have something that you can pick up and do. So if you run out of ideas or if you're lacking inspiration, there's something there for you to go with. And we always have prompts, and I think prompts are really good for when you're lacking inspiration as well. I don't know if you use them much in writing, but we find that some people really follow those.
Yeah, I mean, they are optional. They are all optional. But yeah, I mean, like Tara says, sometimes you'll just get some people that just do the portrait challenge and they pop up every year doing the same challenge, but you won't see them again for a few months, and that's absolutely fine. It's just nice to know that there's stuff there for everybody, and they can, like Tara says, just come and go as they please.
Absolutely. You said a couple of things that I want to touch on. I would love for you to talk about what you've learned about creating a creative habit, and how challenges can work towards that, or how they don't work towards that. Just like what because so many artists have that problem, right, of like doing it over and over and over and over again until like they've created that habit. So could you guys talk a little bit about what you found about creative habits?
Well, I found that you don't dismiss 5 minutes. I think if anyone does a challenge, and I know I've done in the past, you always get those days where you can't fit something in. So don't disregard those of 5 minutes when you're waiting for something, you're in the car or whatever, because you can fill those with the 5 minutes, and that gets almost your creative kick, whatever you call it, done for the day. So I think doing that is almost like putting an X on the calendar, you know, how to keep the momentum going. So don't disregard those small amounts of time. And that'd be my big one.
Yeah, and I think that you get so much more out of doing things little and often than you would by going all guns blazing just for sort of one day a week. It's a bit like we use this analogy a lot, like where you go to the gym, and if you go to the gym once a month and you spend the whole day at the gym, all you're going to do is pull your muscles. You're not going to be able to exercise for some time, you know, and it's not going to have any effect really at all. Whereas if you do go for a much shorter time and go regularly, at least 3 or 4 times a week, that's going to make a lot more of a difference. And obviously if you go even more than that, it's going to make even more of a difference. But I think little and often is certainly something that works a lot better. And besides, you know, it's very hard. People sort of think drawing's just all fun, and it is obviously, but it's actually quite it's a lot of focus that goes into drawing, and you try and draw all day, that's quite tough and you'd feel drained quite quickly. So you're much better to do those smaller amounts of time and just steady progression, really.
Well, and
Yes.
doing this little amounts of time must mean that you can do longer and longer amounts of time, just like going to a gym later, like doing 5 minutes and starting there. Then you can do 10 minutes and then maybe you can do an hour. And then going back to 10 minutes is very easy. Do you guys find that with the people inside of your challenges?
It's very hard to actually sit and draw for 5 minutes without doing more. When we say to people, if you feel like you can't do it, just aim for 1 minute. Just pick up a pen. I'm going to draw for 1 minute. You can guarantee that person will not have put their pencil down, and 10 minutes later they will still be drawing, or at least 5 minutes later they'll never be able to stop at 1 minute. And I think the hardest part sometimes is actually just picking up that pencil and starting. That's the hurdle to get past.
Yeah, it definitely is that initial effort. And I think making things as easy as you can for yourself. So whether you're a writer or an artist or whatever, having those tools out and ready and near wherever you're going to sit, if you're coming back from work at night or whatever, have that notepad, drawing pad or whatever by where you're sitting. So there's no excuse that you can't just pick it up really easy. It's even taken away the effort of having to go in another room and get that thing.
Absolutely. You mentioned one other thing that I want to touch on before we wrap up, which is the importance of accountability. So you mentioned habit, and then you said that a lot of people are in your Facebook group saying, "I'm sorry, I missed a couple of days." And what do you think the importance of accountability is once you're sort of building this habit or sort of building your career up?
I think it's huge. I know even personally, it's not even necessarily the other people so much. It's the fact that you've stated this somewhere. I mean, I did a 60-day challenge a little while ago, and the fact that I'd stated it would make myself feel guilty if I didn't actually meet that challenge. So as well as the expectation that other people knew that I was doing it, it was that expectation of myself, I think.
Yeah, and I think because of the group, what we found is it's a bit like Tara and I. I mean, we've met obviously, and we've got to know each other. And that Tara, for instance, she wanted to put some time aside to build her website, and she just didn't get around to it. She kept saying, "Oh, I haven't managed to get around to it yet." And I said to her, "Okay, tomorrow is the day. You've got to forget everything else. That comes first." And she said, "Oh, okay then." And she kind of knew that I was going to be questioning her the following day, saying, "Have you done this yet?" And so she got on with it and got a big part of that done. And what we found with our group is that as friendships build, you often see the same people commenting a lot on each other's posts, and they're actually collaborating with little things together. There's people drawing, and somebody else saying, "Oh, I've written a poem about your drawing," and as these friendships develop, they're actually egging each other along, aren't they? And they're saying, "Oh, have you done this?" And, "Oh, I'm going to do this." And it's that accountability and that friendship that those people are building friendships, and that I think is a big part of it as well. Having encouragement from other people.
Absolutely. And that brings me to something that I want to touch on about community. And because part of what you guys are doing is building a community, right? You have this group
Mm.
of people in your Facebook group
Yeah.
and are doing these challenges. And I'm wondering if you could talk for a little bit about just like, I keep saying what you've learned about this, but like what it takes to build a good community that can sort of function. I don't want to say function without you, but when you first start a community, you're sort of in every post, like doing everything, and then eventually it
Mm.
sort of grows to be something that is beyond you, and like people are commenting on each other and making their own friendships. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about like what makes a strong community, and how do you keep it, strong and nourish it.
Yeah, I remember when we first started the Facebook group, and I think we had, for our first challenge we were doing, I think we had 30 people around that in the Facebook group. And I remember panicking and saying to Sandra, "I don't know what we're going to do here. We've got hardly anyone in here." But a lot of those people were connections we'd previously made, just through doing art and being online, different places. And those people were really good because they were taking part, but we were incredibly active. So I think as well, we set the tone for what we wanted. We wrote our rules all in a very kind of light-hearted, kind of funny manner. and we would always act positively. So if we were given a comment, we weren't kind of critiquing it, we were encouraging, and that seemed to rub off. So we don't go in the group as much as we did before. We were literally in there all the time at first, but we find now that the other people in the group probably act in a similar way to we were, and I guess it kind of rubs off that kind of, I don't know what you'd call it. What would you call it when everybody's kind of got the same vibe going?
Like
I
the
know
same.
what you mean,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, but it kind of, that thing we'd started seemed to continue with people, and gradually it built. And I think it built. We kept on mentioning it through the podcast, and obviously I'd had a very small podcast before, so we had a little bit of audience come with us from that. And then you had people who'd been following your blog, didn't you, Sandra? So they
Yeah.
came from that. But basically, it was just plugging away and doing little things, posting on Instagram, keep on posting in the group, asking people if they would, tell their friends about it. It was all those tiny little things to gradually build it up.
And of course, the group is grown so much now, and I mean, I'm on it daily, and I just just to check things out, and I can't possibly now comment on all of the posts because, of course, there'd be way too many. How many are in the group now, Tara?
I think it's about 1,500.
Yeah, so I mean, and a lot of those people are posting, so it's just almost impossible to comment on everything, but it's lovely to see it just keep growing all of the time, and everyone is just so lovely and supportive and encouragement. We've been very, very lucky that we haven't had anybody who's been anything but encouraging and supportive. There might be the odd person that's come on and has literally tried to use it to sell stuff, which obviously then we just remove them because they're on it for the wrong reasons. But generally speaking, that's been very rare, hasn't it, Tara?
Yeah, I think as well what we did do is we invited people to suggest the sort of things they'd want in the group, and I think that worked quite well. We had someone suggested they'd love to do like a postcard swap where two people, you'd create a bit of art on a postcard and you'd get paired up with another artist. And that seems to go down really well now. We set that up because that's what they wanted. So I think listening to what they want, but obviously you have to set boundaries on what you can actually do sort of yourself as well, because you'll get suggestions and you don't know if that's something like that they would like or if the whole group in itself would like.
And it's also not taking them for granted, because at the end of the day, without those people there supporting us, we couldn't be having the fun we're having. So it's very much turned into like a big family thing where so many of those names we just know. And actually because obviously we're in the lockdown period at the moment, we're just coming out of it a bit now, but during that lockdown we decided we'd do a couple of drawing sessions, didn't we, Tara? Some live Zoom drawing sessions where we'd invite people to the session and then they could come and draw with us, and that was brilliant. And there was a couple of people that had been doing portrait challenges on the group and posting their self-portraits daily for a month, and it's quite funny because suddenly we're face to face with these people who we interact with such a lot, but we've never actually seen their face. But from their portraits that they've been drawing and posting every day, we could recognise a couple of them instantly. So that was really good fun, and they've become very important key members, a lot of them, and we never take that for granted. And I think that's so important as well.
Wonderful. I love it. And I love everything that you've shared. We are just about at the end of our time together, but we've kind of been talking about Kicking the Creatives this whole time. But I'd love for you guys to speak just very briefly about what Kicking the Creatives is, where they can find you, and why they should join.
Yeah, so Kicking the Creatives is a website, podcast, Facebook group where you can take part in creative challenge throughout the year. You can find us at kickingthecreatives.com. You'll also find links to the podcast there. Sandra?
Yeah, and it's not something that we take so seriously. It's all very, very serious. If you'll find us on YouTube, and our podcast is very, very lighthearted, and we like to keep things really, really fun and just encouraging, really. So yeah, I mean, the best place to go is the website, kickingthecreatives.com, and you can find pretty much everything else from there.
And who should join? Who should go to your website and join? Like, what kind of person are you like, do you find will get the most value out of it?
Anyone who wants to build a creative habit, and even if you're a beginner, because it is a safe place to come and try things. Nobody is going to shout you down. Nobody's going to critique you if you post something that's, is quite basic. So yeah, anybody who just wants to give art or creativity a go.
And we've got a whole range of people. We've got people who are established artists and fantastic sketchers, and we've got people that have posted their first sketch they've ever done. So there's a whole range of people, and everyone understands that every person on there starts, have started at some point on that first sketch. So nobody's judging anybody. Nobody's judging your sketches. So yeah, don't be frightened.
Wonderful. Okay, so this is where I ask everyone who's been drawing or kind of zoning out and listening while they were working to tune back in while you guys deliver the best piece of advice that you've gotten about building a creative habit or building a creative career or art or anything that you guys have done, just what you want the people to leave this conversation with. And once we've done that, then we'll say goodbye. So Sandra, let's start with you and then end with Tara.
Well, I think one of the most important things that I would say is that in order to be good at something, you have to accept that at first you are probably going to be bad at it. And that's like I said in the very beginning, it's something, for some reason, people assume that as they're an adult, they should be able to draw. But if you were going to start taking up piano lessons, you wouldn't expect to be able to play the piano straight away. You have to work at it. So just accept that you're going to be probably quite awful at first, but it doesn't matter. You can only get better. You can only improve.
I just want to reiterate the idea that don't underestimate that short amount of time. Even that 5 minutes, you can start an outline for a book. You could do a quick sketch. That time is still valuable.
Awesome. Lovely. Thank you for stopping by today. It was great talking with you.
Oh, thanks so much for having us. It's been lovely.
So that was Sandra and Tara from Kicking the Creatives. I hope you go and check out their website, Facebook community. And I'm going to tell you, I learned a lot from this episode. In fact, I'm thinking about ways to implement challenges in my own Facebook group, Authors and Creators Making Money Selling Books. And if you are an author or creator and want to learn how to make more money selling books, head on over there or go check out our free ebook, How to Make the Best Work of Your Life, over at thecompletecreative.com/best work. That's it for me. Make sure to subscribe, comment, and review, and I will see you next time.